Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on this last day and last session of our OER week. First, I hope you've enjoyed the different sessions throughout the week, and I hope you get a lot from this final session. So thank you all for your time, and Candice, it's all you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me today and allowing me to share a little bit about my crazy HyFlex life here in our MLT program at Fayetteville Tech. A little bit about me. I have a background in medical lab technology. I have been a lab rat for a good, 30 years now, because I started when I was 4. I'm just kidding. No, I have an extensive background in healthcare, working in clinical laboratories, and have been teaching in the community college system and in the UNC system now since 2013, end of 2012, 2013. And I teach medical lab technology here at Fayetteville Tech. I'm the program director, and I've also taught at Sand Hills Community College. And I also teach at Winston-Salem State in their medical lab science program, which takes 2-year degree MLTs to a bachelor's degree in clinical laboratory science. So kind of busy with everything, but education is my life, and I'm going to make the assumption that it's yours too because you're here. We take the time to invest in participating in these professional development events and open education because we want our students to be successful and have the best learning experience possible with the least amount of stress, if that's possible, which is probably not. Aside from my medical background, I actually have a doctorate in instructional design and instructional technology with a focus on self-regulated learning and how technology actually can be used to leverage the power of student success and the community college and HyFlex at this point. And my agenda is kind of fluid. I started with patient experience in the hospital lab and how we can use case studies to help our clinical students learn how to engage with patients better. So everything that I do is pretty much rooted in empathy. I really believe that when we see things from the perspective of our learners, that we can meet them where they're at. So a little bit about me. I love what I do. The community college system is my life. I am a product of it. I started at Wake Tech, and I love Wake Tech. It was the first place that introduced me to college, and my 2-year degree has never let me down. So I am a true advocate for starting out your academic career in higher education at a community college system. And in North Carolina, we are very blessed to have a rich one, and one that provides us resources such as this to help us become the best faculty possible. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at different types of technology that we can use in our classrooms to create a HyFlex learning environment. And COVID really brought this to light. Now, HyFlex is not new. If you're familiar with it, Dr. Brian Beatty out of San Francisco, I believe he's in San Francisco now, is one of the pioneers of this model, because he saw a need for students to have options and flexibility with class attendance. So I followed his work, and I'm going to share some of the information and resources from him today. So if you're not familiar with him, I highly recommend that you check him out. So in my opinion, the HyFlex model of class attendance, course delivery, curriculum, however you want to look at it, is one of the huge examples of open education. It provides so much flexibility to students that I do consider it to be an open resource, and one that can be easily and arguably so implemented within your class, within your curriculum. So I'm going to flip over and share my screen with you. We are going to be using Mentimeter today. So if you've got a mobile device, if you could pull it out, I'm going to give you a code in a second. So Mentimeter will be facilitating discussion between the two of us to get your input and on different things so that we can kind of customize and tailor this presentation to you a little bit better. All right, so let me get here. There we go. All right. So you should be able to see at the top of the screen, if you go to menti.com and you put in the code 3034250-2500, sorry about that, should be able to log in and see that on your mobile device. And as you're doing it, I am going to do it myself. And let's see here. Here we go. So Menti, usually I keep these as home links on my smartphone screen. And I always forget that I do that. And so I wind up logging in with the URL anyway. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So if you're looking at me, you should see something, and it's probably going to be backwards, something similar to this on your mobile device. And as we move through the presentation, this code will actually stay at the top, so you'll be able to see it. So the whole focus of this presentation this morning is going to be, how can HyFlex help create a more equitable experience for students to access content? So when I first started HyFlex, my whole goal was that my students who participated asynchronously got the same content as my students who were in my classroom or logging in live in a synchronous mode. Now, is it going to be exactly the same? Absolutely not, because the engagement piece is going to be a lot different. But that's part of the technological considerations that we have to make in order to make it more equitable. So as we move through, I want you to take a look at this image, because on the next screen, I'm going to ask you to share some words and ideas with me about this image, okay? So this image actually came from I think it was Lechburg College. There's a citation in here for it. And take a look at this image, and as we move to the next screen, I'm going to ask you to think about what's in it and what words come to mind when you see it. So what we have is, in the middle, obviously in the blue block, we have what appears to be a traditional classroom with rows of seats with the teacher at the front of the classroom, relatively speaking, on what appears to be a whiteboard. It could be an interactive flat panel, could be a smart board, with students who have laptops. Some don't have laptops, some might have a mobile device. On one wall, we have what appears to be monitors with students who potentially are probably online. And then surrounding the blue in the green areas are students in different locations of their home, of their workspace, where they might be, okay? Engaged in different manners, whether it be on a tablet, whether it not be engaged at all, whether it be on a laptop, they might be in a bedroom, what have you. So learning environment, that's what we're looking at with this. So as we move through, in 3 words, what would have described that image to you? What describes that image? So for me, as I look at that, things pop in my mind, words pop in my mind, images pop in my mind. And so on your mobile device, if you will, enter 3 words or even 3 phrases that come to mind when you see this type of learning environment. So for me, when I see the seats in rows, I automatically think structure. I automatically think sit and get, okay? When I see someone sitting on a couch, I see comfortable. So absolutely, inclusive. So with this, let's admit her, there we go. So with this, absolutely, we see an inclusive environment. We see the ability for students to be with the teacher live, in person, face to face. And we also see the ability of individuals who are not physically present in that classroom still being able to be included and interactive with the work. So yes, I've seen non-engaged in there. That is a big issue in the HyFlex model, because it's very easy for someone on the other end of the monitor to just be there and appear to be engaged, but not. Less costly, no gas. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Especially with the prices of gas now, which that's a whole different webinar, but less costly. There are so many students who have to choose between, do I buy these necessities at the grocery store, or do I save that money and put it in my gas tank? And I honestly despise that people have to make those kind of decisions. And I know all of you do as well. That's a big problem in higher education. Chaos. Oh my gosh, chaos. Yes, it does look chaotic. That image was chaotic. And how does one teacher manage all of that? It is absolutely crazy. And it does look like a complicated design. That image was a complicated design. It took me a little bit to navigate through it and see what was where and who was doing what. And there's one learner on there on a couch with 3 monitors that she's not even sitting at the desk. Okay, that would be non-engaged to me. So, and some people said it's engaging. It's all about perspective, right? It's the effort that we put into it. And I like to tell my own students, put good in, get good out. If you don't put good in, you can't expect to get that same quality out of it. So, excellent information as we start this presentation. Okay, let's see. All right, so what is a HyFlex course model? For those of you who have not really explored the HyFlex course model, I wanted just to give a general overview of what it is. And this information actually does come from an open textbook that Dr. Beatty actually does edit. And the nice thing about these open textbooks is that he actually welcomes proposals on changing and updating information. And I do believe that Dr. Beatty has spoken for this group before in the past. I think I saw that yesterday on a previous agenda. So I was really excited to see that, because I'm going to actually get the chance to meet him in August in Arizona. I'm going to actually an event. So I'm really excited to get engaged with him a little bit more. So what is the HyFlex course? Well, it's a way to deliver your course content in basically 3 different modes. We like to call it multimodal. So we have the traditional course delivery, which that's in quotes because I honestly believe that's a relative term now. What defines traditional? Our world is changing so fast right now with technology that using terms like traditional really don't apply effectively to a lot of situations that we have in higher ed. Just like instructional technology and online learning, I always like to say, you don't learn online, you learn wherever you're at. You just use the content online to meet that objective. So I like to call it online instruction, online activities. I'm not in that majority of that term, but that's okay. It's all about perspective. So traditional course delivery, meaning that you come to campus, you sit down in a classroom, you're right there live with the teacher. Then we've got the second mode, or another mode of attendance. That would be your real-time remote access or your remote attendance. So for my students like myself who have a long commute, who have concerns about the cost of gas and allocation of money and budgeting every month, it's very nice to be able to have the option to be home and log in and still be there live, having the ability to engage immediately and ask questions. Are there challenges with that? Absolutely. If you are not a strong, self-directed and self-regulated learner, you could have a lot of challenges with the synchronous online part of actually logging in live. And I've seen that with my own students. And so as I learn more about the challenges that we face with the technology and with the students using it, I find strategies to try and really help them work through it. So one of the modes is obviously live attendance online. And then for those individuals who really, really, really have a goal they want to meet, they want to become medical lab techs, but you know what? I've got to work full time. And I work during the day because I've got a family and I have to be home at night and I'm a single parent, but I really still want the chance to do this. This is where we have the recorded lecture, which would be the exact same lecture that our students who participated live would present to these learners. This, in my opinion, is what makes the HyFlex course flexible. because it gives students who otherwise would never be able to engage in higher education and reach their goal, whatever their goal may be. In our case, in the community college system, we serve our community needs, right? And we focus a lot on job skills, which we should. So giving students the opportunity, or adults the opportunity, to propel themselves either within their own career or into a different career is what we're here for. So oftentimes we miss a lot of learners because they can't attend our face-to-face lectures during the day. So the recorded lecture use really gives them that option of saying, hey, you know what? I can do it. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be worn out, right? I'm going to be tired, but daggone it, I'm going to do it. I've been down that path before. And as long as you've got that teacher on the other end that's willing to provide that flexibility and help them work through and learn how to use it, it can be successful. So another part of the HyFlex course is a flexible instructor. And some research that I have read and some HyFlex content talks about that. I feel like we need to dive deeper into it. That flexible mindset of that instructor is really key to that HyFlex course model. So a huge part of that is technology. So this is a quote from Dr. Beatty's open textbook, which is Hybrid Flexible Course Design. And again, this, I believe, started back in 2007. And he quotes, I quote him, often the initial impetus for developing a hybrid flexible approach is very real need to serve both online and on-ground students. Then he goes on to say student control aspects, sometimes referring to HyFlex as delivering a student-directed hybrid learning experience. So for me, what speaks to me out of this is that we are allowing students to direct their learning by giving them a choice of how they engage with our instruction. So it's not a one size fits all, as we say, a cliche, right? There's never a one size fits all. There's never, oh, just come to class and it'll, you have to be in class, and we're that rigid. If I have learned one thing in education, it is that I don't accept no as an answer. If there's a switch that needs to be flipped, let's figure out how to flip the switch, because my goal in life, period, is student success. If you tell me I want it, then I'm going to do everything I can within my power to help you get it. That's what student-directed hybrid learning experience is. We give the students the power to make the choice that's best for them at any given time. So this week, they may be able to come to class face-to-face. Next week, they may need to watch the recorded lecture. Now, there is a lot of work behind the scenes that goes on to make sure that students are excelling in the class and not falling behind. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. That surrounds learner analytics, which this is where you really want to follow in your learning management system or any other analytical software that really will help you look at student performance. But the whole purpose is choice and flexibility, which leads to that achievement of the goal. So here's another engagement with a word cloud. Tell me some reasons that pop off the top of your head why students would choose the HyFlex option. And I know we've talked about it just a few minutes ago, but there are an infinite number of reasons that a student would want to say, hey, give me the flexibility to learn how I want to in your class. Don't confine me to a certain structure. So I'd like to get some ideas from you as reasons why some of your students might want to choose the HyFlex option if they had multiple sections of a specific course and we want to offer the HyFlex section. What would be some reasons? Distance, absolutely. So I have been a distance learner for, if anybody remembers Delta, and I think Delta is still at NC State. I was a Delta student back a long time ago, and I had to go get tapes and watch VHS tapes. So distance was a big deal for me because I couldn't attend state. Learning characteristics. How do you learn best? I found that I have many students who they could come to class. They don't have any commitments during the day, but they like to watch the lecture because you know what they do? They stop it, take notes, go back, listen, and keep going. so they can control the pace of my lecture. So if I have a 50-minute lecture, it may take them 2 hours to get through it because they need to slow down and process. A great point. Transportation. I have students who walk to campus. I don't know that. I found out accidentally. Okay. Transportation is a big deal. Daycare is huge. You know, our main priority is our family, right? So we've got to take care of our family. And oftentimes we fall last. So having that option gives them the ability to do both, right? Cost effective. This is really a good thing because you can give them flexibility to take that course and still work, right? Work schedule, classroom anxiety. That seems to be something that everybody struggles with, or a lot of people struggle with lately, and they really don't want to be put on the spot, so to speak, and have questions asked to them. Our live online learners feel the same way. So that's a challenge to integration of technology in the HyFlex model, because how do you keep those online learners engaged? Specifically, how do you keep the asynchronous students engaged? Best of both worlds, absolutely. Other obligations, illness or disability. So often think, what would happen if I'm a student and I am in a program, I am in my very last semester, and I break a leg and can't go to my classes? That's going to set me back significantly. But if I could just sit here and do it on my computer at my pace, I'm great. So the other thing is the HyFlex option gives learners who may choose the online components the option to come to class. So if they realize that, hey, you know what, I'm not really learning as much as I feel like I need to be, I think I'm going to go to class this week and talk to the teacher. They're not constrained and confined to one mode of delivery. So that is a really big benefit of the HyFlex model. You've given me some good information here. Thank you. This is great. So I had someone a couple of weeks ago, actually it was a peer review for we have a new journal coming out in the community college system. It's in a base, I can't remember the whole name. I think it's the North Carolina Journal of Teaching Innovation. I believe it's something like that. So I'm really excited about this. And I really encourage everybody to sit down and think about, manuscripts that they could submit for publication, because this is a really good thing for our system. But I read some reviews on my first submission to the journal, and one of them says, "You're brave to do HyFlex. It's very labor intensive." And as I read it, I was like, "You're brave to do HyFlex. It's very labor intensive." Thinking, is it? Am I doing it wrong? Because honestly, we all have learning management systems, and we all should be, or most of us probably already are, have all of our content in our course cartridges, right? We use Blackboard here at Fayetteville Tech, and we use other learning management systems in the UNC system, and not every community college has the same LMS, right? So you either Moodle or Canvas or Blackboard typically. So I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, well, I use Collaborate to engage with my students, online. I've got them right there. I can see their faces or either their names. And all I have to do is hit record. Okay, that's not too hard. And then all I have to do is let it render for about 30 minutes. Get the link, make sure they can download it if they want to, set it to public so that just in case they're not locked out, and then make an announcement and send it out to them. So I'm not sure where that comes from. And I think there's a misconception in education that HyFlex is difficult. I haven't found that, not the technical piece of HyFlex. The difficult part of HyFlex is making sure your students are mastering content, specifically those students who you don't see on a weekly basis. That is what is difficult. So we'll touch on a little bit about that as we move through the rest of this webinar. But as far as the actual facilitation and getting the recording, that is pretty simple. In fact, I was shocked at how simple it was. So I'm not sure if I'm doing it wrong. I hope I don't find out that I am. I don't think that I am, but we'll have to see. So this is my Freeman Protocol for HyFlex execution. Now, that is not an official thing. That is just me being the funny person that I am sometimes. Step 1, explain the model to the students. So most of our students have never had a class like this. So I started this program from the beginning with all HyFlex. Now, unless things have changed in the past 6 months, I don't think our community college system has established a section code for the HyFlex course yet. I hope I'm wrong, but we don't have a code like that. So I really didn't ask for permission. I just kind of did it and it worked, okay? So I have to explain the model to the students because they didn't understand that, oh, you mean this week I can come to campus and next week I can log in? Okay, well, if I log in next week, do I have to always log in from the rest of the semester? No, you can choose. You can choose each week. So I really laid out the foundation of what the model is for and why it is established. And it took them a good probably 4 to 6 weeks to really understand that they had choice. They can direct their attendance. They have autonomy over how they engage in the material. Now, like I said, there's challenges with that. I have students who get behind in lectures, so I have to come up with innovative ways to make sure that they complete the work, which the innovative ways, you can have an infinite number of them and they can change all the time and they can work one semester and not the next. Step 2, select record from your LMS, okay, or your Zoom link. That's pretty easy. So for us, we have Blackboard, so we use Collaborate, and you just pull it up. It's right there in the course. It stays in the course. Your recording stays in the course. So everything is right there packaged for you. It's just a matter of making sure that you have your settings right. Can the students download it if they want to? My first semester doing this, my students wanted to download every lecture, okay? And they told me they wanted to go back to courses the first semester. They were already in their second semester. They said, I want to download all the courses from last semester. Can you fix that? Okay. So that was a setting that I didn't even consider that first semester. So now going forward, I make sure that I allow them to download them. I think that's important because the curriculum that we teach builds on itself throughout the 5 semesters. So having these recordings actually help them at the end of their program because they say, okay, you know what? She talked about that in MLT 110. Let me go find the videos from MLT 110. And that's what I want my students to do. That's another part of HyFlex. Just like I mentioned, the teacher has to be flexible. The actual recordings need flexibility. So allowing the students to download them and store them in their own manner is really another hallmark of HyFlex because they actually own something, that they own a learning product that they can take with them and use at will. So then you send an announcement. The last step after your lecture is done, you send an announcement with a link to your recording and direction that tells them how to find it if for some reason they forget it's in announcements. So the piece about it being super challenging as far as the technical piece, I believe is a myth. That's my experience with it because it's so simple that it almost seems complex, and it's really not. My vision and what I am seeing coming in the next, I want to say 10 years, but the way time is moving now, it's probably going to be 5. The majority of our classes are going to be HyFlex because students are going to want this option. And I think it's a good thing because if we're here to promote student success and help adults achieve goals, then we are committed to helping them learn how to direct their own learning. And so the HyFlex model aligns very well with that. So the hard part is when the technology fails. And not only when it fails you in the class, but when it fails to meet the need of the student. And I own those failures because it's my job to monitor progression for them and help them learn how to monitor their own. So as I learned more about obstacles and challenges and even successes in this HyFlex model, I dug into those fundamental and foundational learning theories that would help me come up with strategies to help them learn better. And self-regulated learning is one of them. Think about it. Were you taught how to learn when you were in K-12, even higher ed? I wasn't taught how to learn. I was taught, go learn this. Okay, that's great. It would be like putting me in a car with a 5-speed at the age of 15 and say, okay, figure it out. And I've never cranked a car before. How do you tell someone to go learn something when they don't know the nuts and bolts of how to do it? So teaching them about self-regulation, goal setting, monitoring, and refinement is key to success, because your asynchronous learners are really the ones who can fall through the cracks quickly. And that's where the technology fails the student. Because if they don't know how to access it, when to access it, why to access it, they're not going to stay current with the content. So another word cloud. I love the word clouds. Tell me how you think technology could fail the student outside of that. Because we're going to talk about some obstacles and challenges that I have faced and that I can see coming. And hopefully we can present some mitigating strategies that would prevent it. Low bandwidth. Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Cost is a huge one. Absolutely. That low bandwidth and cost, if you don't have that high-speed internet, depending on what type of class you're taking, depending upon the media that has been integrated within the class, you're going to have, that student's going to have some huge challenges. It's not the student's fault, right? It's the designer's fault. It is the technology's fault. It's failure on our part to align our course content and our learning strategies with what the learner can withstand, okay? And I hear a lot of teachers talk about, you don't need to take this course. You don't need to take this course if you don't have high-speed internet. Okay, let's just shut that student down right there, okay? That is not empathic. So we, not only do we have to do a deep learner analysis and find out what our students can and can't do, we got to find out what they have access to. Technology literacy, I love that term. So my graduate degree is media literacy. So I've found that over the years, we have literacy in everything. Can they use the technology? And if they can't use the technology, have you provided them instruction on how to use it? A shared home computer. Okay, so I was very fortunate. I am an only child, not fortunate not to have siblings. I wish I did, but I didn't have to fight for a computer, right? So you have to take that into consideration. And that's even something that I haven't thought about. So I like that that was shared. The interaction with the instructor, that is a significant one where the technology can fail. So it takes that instructor much more effort and much more, I want to say no box thinking, to say, how can I connect with them asynchronously and make sure they know I'm here for them, just like I'm here for my face-to-face. Mobile devices. Okay, I don't know about you, but I do everything on my mobile device, everything, okay? And so does your course and your HyFlex curriculum, is it responsive? Does it respond to whatever type of device the student is using? You have to make those considerations as well, okay? Thinking from an open mindset and that open perspective, we want the students to be able to learn with whatever they have at hand and help them know what to choose and how to use it. The lack of training, absolutely, that comes with not having that technology literacy that aligns with your course content. Lack of interaction for both the synchronous and asynchronous online students is significant. Because I don't know about you, if I'm behind a screen, there's something about that screen that gives me a little bit of security, you know? And it takes adults a long time to have confidence enough to say, hey, you know what? I mess up. I'm like everybody else. We mess up. It's okay. Don't judge me. I don't care if you judge me. It's okay. I'm learning. It takes people a long time to do that. So we have to make that environment a safe one and a secure one, regardless of being face-to-face or on the other end of that computer. The ADA compliance piece is extremely significant. And we all know that. And we all have challenges, I'm sure, with making sure our content is ADA compliant. So when we have our videos, we should be having them closed caption, right? We should upload them to YouTube if we can, and actually have that captioning for the hearing impaired. Do we do that all the time? No. And that is a failure to that student. So there are a lot of challenges that come with the HyFlex model and sharing that video. And I feel like as we learn what these challenges are and the significant impact to them, technology is going to catch up with these obstacles and make it easier for us to actually do this type of teaching without so many situations that could fail the student. And it's not the student failing, it's the technology failing the student. So my epic failures, I have a ton of them. I am okay with that because learning is about making mistakes and refining the practice, right? So I forget to share my screen. That's one of my epic failures. So what happens is, let's say I don't have any learners logging in for my online part, but I've got one student in class, and I know that I'm going to have the other 13 watching the video. Ideally, right? We should be. I forget to share my screen. Nobody's on the other end to tell me I didn't share it. I get to the end of a hour and 15-minute class. Guess what? I have to record it again. That takes time. That takes extra effort. That interjects potential error because the students watching the video may not hear the same thing that the student did who was in my class. I forget to share my screen. I forget to select record. Great. Okay, same situation. I forget to hit record and I've got to go all the way back and do it again. And the problem with this is that if I forget to hit record and I have students online, they don't know that. So they can't say, hey, Dr. Freeman, hit record. So my students now have learned, Dr. Freeman, did you hit record? Yes, thank you. And the nice thing about this is that they see my authentic self and they see me make mistakes and learn from them. And so it lets them know that, no, I don't live on a pedestal and they don't need to either. And so I get a more open relationship with them and they feel freer to come see me. I forget to activate my mic. It's the same thing. Okay, so those are some of my epic failures with technology and the things that I learned. So if you are doing the HyFlex model and you see yourself making those mistakes or forgetting, stick a note on your board. I have them everywhere. Remember, hit record, make sure your mic's on, share your screen. Okay, so thinking from the learner's perspective and thinking about the demographics, this is significant and we know this. And this data actually pulled from the community college system. The Tableau actual data, the graphs are amazing. And we do, the system does a very good job, in my opinion, of giving us a lot of analytics to drill down into to see how we can use that information to make our instruction more equitable. So we all know that there is a significant gap in student success across race and ethnicity. And we have to understand that when we are engaging in creation of HyFlex courses. And I like to tell my students that I am going to create a learning environment where everyone is on the same playing field in my classroom, in my lab, on the other end of that screen. Can that be done? Yeah, in some world, some realm that is maybe around us. When they walk out of my classroom door, they walk into a different type of world, because when they come in here, we set it level. We have to. So you have to take into consideration the challenges that we have historically seen in various races and ethnicities, and weave that into your decision on what to include in your instruction, how you're going to deliver that instruction, and what you're going to do in the future to try to mitigate any problems. So I highly recommend that you dig into the data that we have with the system, because the more we do this, the more we're going to be able to close the gap in that retention and that persistence students have to completion. And we do that by allowing them that flexibility and that self-direction. Okay, so on your phones, what I want you to do is I want you to think about students and their access to technology. And I want you to place each item on this list, on this grid, where you feel like it would fall in relation to accessibility on the y-axis and on the x-axis, from, let's say, 0 to 100%, 100% being extremely accessible, extremely important, and the impact that resource would have. A high impact would be at the top, and low impact would be obviously at the origin. So we're looking at internet access at home, a reliable computer, working peripherals, meaning a headphones, webcams, whatever other peripherals that they might use, whether it be an external hard drive, etc. And then the multimodal avenue of communication with the instructor. Okay, so place those on that graph, and as you are doing that, what you're going to see is the actual topics are going to move based upon where you are landing everything. So right now we're seeing that some of the most important considerations would be internet access. Okay, I would agree with you on that. The HyFlex model is not successful if you don't have reliable internet access. Also, and as I was making this, the multimodal avenue of communication with the instructor actually went the highest on my plane, because I really feel like students have to be able to contact the instructor in more than just one or two different ways. For me, I actually do something a little different. I do a weekly podcast to follow up with everything we've done that week. And my students tell me that is one of their favorite ways that I communicate information to them, and that they can get it back to me because they can comment and I can comment. So that multimodal communication for me is the most important, and it's the most impactful. And the working peripherals, I agree. I would hold that lower on the scale, simply because, you know, a reliable computer with a good webcam and a good audio system is really all you need. The extra webcam, the headphones, all of that is extra. So if the student needs that to be successful, then we need to make sure we help them understand what they need in relation to the course. So having that information in your syllabus is vital. And we already have that anyway, or we should have it. But if you have to have specifics in there, like if you have a lot of video, then you're going to want to really make sure that you put the specifics of how much RAM, ROM, or however strong your computer needs to be. I'm not a computer. I use the computer. I don't know how to build it. But you want to make sure you be specific, and they know that up front, so that they're not coming into a course and saying, I didn't know I needed this. Excellent. I would agree with everything that has been put here. All right, so access to web. We want to make sure the correct internet browser is used. If it works best in Chrome, tell them to not use Firefox, and definitely not Internet Explorer. High-speed access. We definitely want to make sure that for the HyFlex course, that high-speed access is readily available. If they don't have access to it, then it's our job to help them find it, okay? And again, we can put that in our syllabus all day, but if you're like me, my students don't read it unless I give them a test on a high-stakes test. So I'll make sure that I iterate it multiple ways and talk about it all the time. So there are options if you don't have high-speed access. All of our colleges have computer rooms and have reliable internet connectivity, and that consistent and reliable access. And that's one of the challenges that I often face, is that I live in a very rural area of North Carolina, and so I can be 300 feet from my property and the internet's gone. So a lot of our students struggle with the same thing. So we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to understand that when they contact us and say, hey, I couldn't watch the video because I didn't have internet, we don't make the assumption that, oh, you just didn't want to do it. We take them at their word and we say, okay, we understand, let me help you. That's the flexibility piece. The peripherals and the audio, the closed captioning is significant. We really need to do a better job. I need to do a better job of closed captioning all of my videos. YouTube does that great for you. But again, when you upload to YouTube, you want to make sure that you make that video unlisted so that you make that learning consolidated and private for your students. It needs to be a safe space. The choice of camera use. I give my students a choice. And I know there's a lot of debate and argument on this because we can't prove on the other end that they're there. But when we teach healthcare, we're teaching individuals to save lives, okay? And if I trust them to go out and save someone's life, I have to trust them that they're on the other end of that camera. Because the truth is, a lot of our students don't know how to apply backgrounds. They don't think to apply backgrounds, and they don't want anybody to see where they live. And I have to understand that they need that safety. They need that flexibility and that choice. And the time frame of access. So we need to make sure that we're clear with our students when we send out these recorded lectures that you have X amount of time to watch this before your next lecture or before your next assessment. However, you still have access to them after the fact. So it's very important to communicate your expectations around their access to your instruction. The reliable computer. I have several. Computers seem to die within 6 months once they come to my house. You want to make sure that the students understand that the working devices they have need to be reliable, and you have to align your content with that technology. So how much media, how media rich is your instruction? Do you have a lot of media? Do you have a lot of interactive components? Do you have a lot of embedded elements in your instruction that could bog down that computer? It's very important to consider that. Mac or PC, okay? I'm sure everybody has battled with this. I have students who will take a test on a Mac and call me and say, I don't know what happened. I am not a Mac person. That is something that is a weakness of mine. I need to really learn more about Mac, but I take that into account. So because I am delivering HyFlex on a PC, I go that route. So I have to tell them to use a PC. And then integrated webcam and speakers. You want to make sure that they are fully operational. Readily available access to the instructor. So you want to make sure that instructor to student communication is frequent. And it not only comes in the form of your announcements from your course, but that you have another way. I use Remind, and I allow my students a choice to sign up for Remind. Student to instructor communication. How easily can they contact you apart from the class? You want to make sure that they understand. Part of that flexibility that they have is knowing they have the flexibility to contact you as needed and that you will respond. And then multiple means of communication. So text-based, a lot of teachers say, I don't want them texting me. Google Voice is a great way to give them a number that is not your personal number. So you want to make sure in that HyFlex course, the flexibility doesn't only end at the video, it carries through to everything that you do. So HyFlex classrooms, you're going to start seeing these more and more. And what we have here is just a mock-up of a flexible classroom with flexible seating so that students can position themselves wherever they need to be. And typically there are a lot of monitors in the classroom, and there are a lot of cameras placed all around the classroom. This allows the instructor or facilitator the ability to record different things that are going on. So if the student wants to demonstrate something, we can activate a camera and record that for the student. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of these classroom environments, and they're going to help make this better. So I'm going to skip through this just for time's sake. This actual image is an image of what I'm hoping is going to start taking place at a lot of our community colleges, if that hasn't already. Very technologically rich learning environments that include monitors on every wall so that students are not having to face front, that they can see things very clearly and easily because, as I age, my vision changes, right? So we have to take that into account. We have to not make the assumption that our students can see everything facing us and that they're getting it. They need the flexibility in the classroom as well. So HyFlex is not only the mode of delivery, it's the way they are engaging with the content. And then this is an example of a tabletop interactive device. So that's going to be actually critical for your actual desk areas because it allows more collaboration. So again, with the HyFlex model, you want to make sure when we're trying to achieve equity, you have multiple levels and degrees of access via the web, okay? So can the students access your instruction and your content multiple ways? They can come to class, they can log in live, they can watch the video, and they can also access your content apart from all of that through the learning management system. Potential for student need for technology support. We have to maintain that flexibility and that understanding that if our students need a loaner laptop, that we put them in contact with the right people and not just send them to student services and say they can help you there. We have to know all of these points of contact before we start teaching with HyFlex. When you're designing your curriculum, you have to make sure that your content aligns with the technology that you're using. So if it's very heavy in video, you want to make sure that you use a video platform that everybody can freely access with no cost and that it can be public if needed, okay? You also want to make sure that your content in the video is closed captioned so that anyone who needs that ADA accommodation has that access. And then engagement, equity for asynchronous learners. When you create your curriculum, you have to have a way to allow those asynchronous learners to engage just like everyone else. So in this situation, if I leave this Mentimeter open or I leave a poll everywhere open, and as I'm telling my live class, hey, do this, the asynchronous students can do it too. So you have to think about those Web 2.0 resources that you're integrating. Can your learners actually use them if they're not participating live? So HyFlex is much more than just a multimodal content. It is flexibility with the instructor. It's flexibility with the technology. It's flexibility in the learning environment, whether that be on campus or in your home. So I want to thank you for joining me today. And if you have any questions, I am very open to answering anything. And we have about 5 minutes, I think. So I am happy to answer any questions. And I want to thank you for joining me. You can get a copy of this. Absolutely. I will send a link to Emily with all of this so you can have it. That's absolutely perfect. Thank you so much, Sylvia. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jen. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and thanks for all you do in our system. We are blessed to be able to do what we do, and we all have a purpose. And I applaud you for everything that you do. Oh, thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate it. Thanks, Kathy. That's great. That's great. Thanks, Joni. I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for participating and attending today, as well as the rest of the week. I hope you were able to get a lot of good information regarding OER and technology. And hopefully we will see you next year. We're hoping to do this again next year. But thank you all. And we will also, the sessions that are recorded, we will get these up on YouTube and share these out as soon as they are available. So thank you all and enjoy your weekend.